There's a stat that came out in March 2025 that said nearly 30% of US parents with kids aged 0 to 8 said their children are using AI for learning. When you think about the use of AI in early brain development, are there any concerns there?
Huge concerns.
These headbands measure each student's level of concentration. The information is then directly sent to the teacher's computer and to parents. This fifth grader, whom we caught dozing off in class, told us his parents punish him for low attention scores. And that kind of data adds a new kind of pressure for students.
Even 3-year-olds, the amount of that you need to do for a class of 3-year-olds is unbelievable.
Did we raise standards? Yes, we did. Did we raise expectations on assessments? Yes, we did. Have we improved student performance? No.
The teacher in front of the classroom model of one person trying to educate many kids who are at wildly different levels of understanding just fundamentally doesn't work.
Change is always there, and AI is just another change.
About half of teachers and about half of students most recently reported using AI, and that number continues to grow. It's much higher. These big purchases or these big acceptances of free resources from schools really need to think carefully, not only about the decisions they're making now, but what they may be locking themselves into for the future.
One study found generative AI tutors can sometimes inhibit learning if students become too reliant on the tool.
How do you make sure that the AI that is teaching kids is doing what it's supposed to be doing?
Why do you think the education system has remained so resistant to innovation, even after COVID?
COVID did a really good job of exposing just how sad of a state our education system is. But we are so entrenched in the way things were. And the thing that's interesting about education is pretty much everybody had our own personal experience with being educated, right? Like, we knew what it was like to go to kindergarten and go to school. And I think parents often kind of look back on their journey, and when it's time to educate their own kids, they're kind of like, well, my kids should be educated the way I was educated, right? That's why you see people are like, I went to Catholic school, my kid's going to Catholic school. I went to private school, or I went to public school. I did that. I was the same way. I was a public school kid. My husband was, and when it was time for our girls to go to school, we put them on the bus and said, go to the local public school. We often will have a little bit of a mismemory of what our experience was like, because we'll be like, well, I turned out fine, right? I turned out well, and I have great memories from high school. But we kind of start to forget about, the average day-to-day thing. So again, what's kind of happened in the last 5 years is people did realize, wow, this product of school isn't great, but how do we change it? What do we do? And it seems like a huge hurdle to get over. And, the good news is there is a way to change it.
By far, the best way to teach a child is one-on-one interaction with an adult who is a good teacher and knows the child. Now, that's been well established. Now, the problem is it's very labor-intensive and very expensive. You have classrooms with 20, 30 students. They have many different levels of understanding. And the teacher cannot be individually teaching each one, has to give some sort of mean. Now, if you had an AI that was trained to be a good teacher, then that could improve the brain, right? You could scale it up. Every child could have their own, because it's an AI.
There have been studies on the how much you learn by reading a book versus having a classroom versus a single one-on-one tutor. And there's 2 standard deviations. This is a famous Bloom 2 Sigma thing, where there's 2 standard deviations difference between learning in a classroom and having a one-on-one tutor teach you something. If you look at the Bertrand Russells and the greats of history, all the famous mathematicians, John von Neumann, they all got this one-on-one tutoring when they were kids. Even, of course, Alexander is tutored by Aristotle, right? So you can have this experience yourself on any given subject you might want to learn about. And it's crazy. I mean, you can just be like, this Socratic tutoring thing, explain this to me, don't tell me the answer. And the feedback loop is so fast.
What about the issue of too much screen time? I hear a lot of this. Kids are spending too much time on screen. The
Absolutely.
Stories of addiction to technology interfering with their education.
There is a huge difference between doom scrolling TikTok or playing a video game and getting a one-to-one learning experience where you are totally engaged at the exact right pace that your brain can handle. You're not so challenged that you've shut down and you're not bored because it's too easy, right? So getting that connection, I would argue receiving this type of education that happens to be delivered on a computer is so much more engaging than sitting in a classroom, glossy-eyed, looking at a teacher like this, right?
And they don't teach us how to learn, which we'd think that's the first thing they should teach us, is how to love and care for our brains,
Yes.
and then how to learn.
Yes. This hypothesis you have between the usage of something like ChatGPT and dementia, for someone that doesn't understand the sort of mechanism there around cognitive load and so on, and the studies that support this idea that if you have less cognitive load, you're at high risk of dementia. Can you make that link really clear for me?
So think of it as use it or lose it. The more you use your brain, and new learning is a major strategy to prevent Alzheimer's disease. People who do not engage in lifelong learning have a higher risk, significantly higher. People who do not do as well in school or who drop out of school early have a higher risk of dementia. And so the more you're engaged, the more you engage the neurons in your brain, the stronger they are. And so now we're going to engage them less, and that's a concern.
And that's why, it's time to reinvent and reimagine education. And for me, I had this personal experience, for my daughters when it was time for them to go to school. I live in Austin, Texas. I sent them to our really excellently rated public school system. And very quickly, my daughter just hit this wall of not being able to have kind of personalization, being bored in class, things like that. And halfway through second grade, my daughter came home from school and she looked at me and she said, "I don't want to go to school tomorrow." I said, "What do you mean? You love school." And she just looked at me and she's like, "School is so boring." I mean, I just had this moment of oh my gosh, in 2.5 years, they've taken a kid who's tailor-made to love school and be interested and want to learn, and they've wiped that passion away.
They have no motivation. They have no ambition. They have no vision statement because everything got handed to them. And what does the adult say to the kids? Where did I go wrong? I gave you everything I didn't have. That's where they went wrong, because they gave the kids everything he didn't have. And what made that person was what they struggled, the decisions they had to make, the decisions they got right, the decisions they got wrong, who they met, how they treated people. This is life experience. And it doesn't come on a bumper sticker. It doesn't come on a, what's the secret? Just stay alert, learn new stuff every day, and learn from your mistakes, because those lessons are greater than someone just telling you to not do it.
Look, if you have every single thing that any human has ever written, every scientific article, every textbook, every interesting even statistical pattern that might be out in some data set somewhere, you have that all memorized. If a human had even a fraction of that memorized, they would be noticing all kinds of different connections. They'd look at this piece of medical literature and this thing in chemistry, and they'd realize, oh, we can solve migraines by connecting these two insights. So far, we don't have any evidence of an LLM doing this. The people who made these scaffolds, which kind of do something similar, but nothing like this has been directly done. So it does suggest these models are shockingly less creative than humans.
What do you make of AI? What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But it's by the way, it's been here for a while. Mm-hmm. It really spooked people when it started writing your term paper and composing your painting and your set design. All right, the whole other category of people got spooked by that. Meanwhile, AI has been harnessed and being fully used in my field and in most of the physical sciences It's doing work. If you can do the work and I can go to the Bahamas, let it do the work. We have telescopes coming online that could not exist without the intervention of AI to access the data, reduce the data, analyze the data, make a decision about whether it should go back to the thing that it just observed, because that was weird compared to the last time it was observed. And so we're living with it. What it means is it'll have to up the game of people who say they are creative. And what I mean by that is, I can say, ChatGPT, take this picture of us and say, ChatGPT, paint this scene in the style of Van Gogh. It'll come back, the colors will be just right. It'll have the swirly lines. It'll be perfect. If Van Gogh was standing there, that's what Van Gogh would have painted. If I say, ChatGPT, paint us in the style of no artist who has ever lived. I don't know what it's going to give us, but it'll probably suck, okay? And so true creativity is not aping what has happened before and making adjustments. True creativity, yes, you always build on others. I'm not in denial of that. But true creativity takes leaps that most people don't even know can be taken. And so the artists, so that gap, I think, is what AI in the arts world is going to force creative people to reach for. Otherwise, you're replaced by a simple request in the input line of a large language model.
At this point, are there some things that you can learn that AI cannot teach you?
Absolutely. I mean, an AI system can't teach you to be innovative. It can't teach you to be creative. It cannot teach you grit. It cannot teach you the discovery process. It cannot teach you, I mean, it's a machine. It's an advanced hyper-speed calculator.
Right? The world is totally different than it was certainly when I was growing up, and even probably, when you were growing up too. And it's no longer just about the 3 R's of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Now it's about what I kind of call the 4 C's. It's critical thinking, communication, creativity, and collaboration. Those are the skills that our people need to be awesome at and figure out how they're going to always stay how can we stay smarter than AI? And part of that is living in that gray frontier where you're kind of saying, all right, let's bring the creativity into, what's known in the world and go build stuff.